there's such disarray among the rebels, for one thing?
That's right. I mean, obviously, if you're tipping the scales of the balance of power there to the point where, the Assad military just kind of begins to erode and collapse, then, there are elements like the Nusra Front, which is the sort of radical Al-Qaeda,
right,
and frankly, pretty accomplished militarily in terms of just reading, recent press accounts. I mean, they're the ones who are overtaking towns and flexing their muscles there. If one of them were able to overwhelm an installation with chemical weapons, and there's dozens of them spread around the country there, really all it takes is one, and suddenly you've completely change the safety factor for everybody.
Is he afraid of a Syria regime response toward in terms of an attack on Israel or Turkey or?
The certainly Kerry is the one who sort of poses the external threat outside of Syria. I think the military testimony again over the last year and a half or so has really been all about just the practical question of how you stabilize this environment on the ground. And again, so he has listed the threat and danger of desertions. If you get some captain or lieutenant who hasn't been paid probably in months, I mean, again, they've been at war for 2 years.
Right.
The economy is a mess. And, how strong is the command and control of, this really dangerous weapons of mass destruction? So desertion is something that they are trying to calculate, and also just again the question of rebel forces taking control of this. So that's why a UN solution. I mean, if we can visualize that, is frankly a much higher safety factor.
Well, so did you get any indication from John Kerry or Chuck Hagel or General Dempsey yesterday? How real is this? What they're calling the Russian plan or the Russian proposal, and how much time are they willing to give it? Because the UN doesn't act overnight.
It doesn't.
We know, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the response was very cautious from Senator Kerry, who that question was more, primarily addressed to. It's pretty clear that they, I think, are gun shy about just the obstructionism of Russia over the last year or so at the UN and a little bit
in Syria.
Right. I've also heard from other people, it didn't come out explicitly yesterday, though, he does have apparently a pretty good relationship with the foreign minister of Russia. And I do think that this thing really didn't just, spontaneously combust. I mean, I think there probably had been some discussions.
There have been back-channel discussions for a while.
But clearly something happened in terms of events to get this thing to really move forward. And again, the fact that Syria, within 24 hours, it admitted they owned it and that they would identify sites and that they would sign the convention. I mean, that's quite extraordinary.
It is. No, it is.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have happened without the threat of a military strike?
There's no question that had to be a factor. I think, to some degree, the pushback also might have been, a factor too, in terms of just, forcing the administration to sort of search for maybe other options. I think historians are going to have a field day.
So how long do you think we can afford to let that thing process work out?
I actually think, I don't think it's a matter of days. I mean, I think, we've got our, warships positioned. They can, and this question came up, how can we afford this? But the fact is they're there.
Yeah.
And, having them stay in place is really not some
so we can give it a month or a couple of months.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And that's.
And certainly, if they would use chemical weapons again in that interim, then I think there would probably be an immediate strike, right?
That's right. And whether even the president would come back to Congress, that was also sort of the other hot stove league discussion going on with members. Is that if things don't pan out, will he come back? Well,
Isn't there another reality here that if this thing is changing so fast, it's really hard to get. But if this had not popped up, right? If Kerry had not given that sort of flip remark, and this proposal hadn't popped up, if in fact it had come down to what we thought it was Monday when we all started talking about it, all right, this is a showdown this week. Congress is going to have to vote up or down. If that vote had taken place this week, again, absent this diplomatic option, would Congress have approved it or not?
This week?
This week.
It would not have passed the House.
Would not have passed,
yeah,
right.
And I mean, the Senate.
That's the reality.
Yeah, no,
So-
I mean, it was, again, I just think that,
It
you
would
know,
not have
even,
passed.
you know, people were sympathetic and supportive of the president. It just,
But not
I don't think it
enough,
would've-
not enough Democrats, all right, and not enough Republicans,
Right.
certainly, but not enough
If you
Democrats.
saw the Republicans on armed services yesterday, the hostility was, you know, palpable in the room there. So no, he would. I don't think it would have passed the House.